Caroline, Pauline Hanson on the ISIS brides, which is the other issue that we're still not got to the bottom of. I still can't work out how somebody turned up at an embassy and picked up a bag full of passports and suddenly handed them over to these people. I mean, I thought you had to personally yourself turn up if you wanted to get a passport. But Pauline says she's been contacted by various New South Wales prison guards who are worried that they have been receiving training to keep a watch over these returning brides. Presumably, they're going to be locked up. I mean, Hanson says this cohort, if they get back, could end up at the Windsor Women's Correction Facility. I think that's now been denied, but there must be some germ of truth to this. I mean, are you comfortable that we really know exactly what's gone on in the background with these people?
I'm not comfortable at all, Steve, and I don't care whether they end up at this Windsor facility, which the New South Wales government has said that's not true. We've heard now instead they're going to head to another Sydney jail, Silverwater, as if that's much better anyway. They're still going to put other prison guards at risk, other female inmates at risk, because there is no doubt that these women have been completely radicalized. And I'm not confident that you can ever completely recover from that. They went to Syria knowing that they were joining this barbaric death cult of a terror group. And as Peter Credlin likes to say, ISIS brides, that term itself minimizes who these people are. These are ISIS women who went over to support this death cult. We shouldn't be having them back in Australia anywhere, let alone within the prison system. I mean, better in the prison system than out in the general community, sure, but they shouldn't be entitled to come here. And I don't understand why it's so hard for the rest of us to go through the bureaucratic processes of getting a passport. It looks like it's much easier if you're an ISIS supporter and sympathiser.
Yeah, that absolutely puzzles me. I can't work it out. James, the other question you've got to ask, and we don't know the answer to this, but if you're, a 12, 13, 14-year-old child in one of those camps, and we saw that vision that Sky's been playing of another camp with these kids throwing rocks and going like this across their throat to an American journalist, can we be convinced or what guarantees can we have that these kids have not been radicalised?
Well, yeah, exactly right. And, there's a lot of misinformation around all of this that comes straight out of the Labor government about this. And one of these things is this whole idea that you have an automatic right to return. Well, it's actually not in the Constitution. There's a lot of claims that it's in the Constitution. I've looked through it. I have not been able to find this. Now, there's sort of an implied right under international law, but, international law, well, what are you going to do with that? The thing is, though, that where there is law on this, and we've spoken about this on this program many times here, is the Passport Act. And the Passport Act says officials do not have to, and in fact should not issue a passport to someone who is deemed to be a potential threat to life and limb here in Australia for them to return to Australia. And I think the prima facie evidence here is that, that threshold has been met. The very fact that we're even having the discussion about what prisons need to be, prepared potentially for the women, what de-radicalization programs need to be prepared for the children, tell you precisely this. And so it's all amazing to me that the government and the Prime Minister and Tony Burke, the Home Affairs Minister, get up in question time over and over again, pilot-like washing their hands, saying, we don't want these people here. We have nothing to do with it. We wash our hands of the whole thing. When all of the evidence, of course, is that they have been at arm's length trying to affect that very outcome. And as you quite correctly point out there when you open up this topic here, Steve, is that, this whole idea that there's a sack of 34 or 35 passports somewhere that some other third-party Australian citizen was allowed to transport across borders, which also raises questions in the Passport Act. Obviously there was government assistance, and this whole idea, we don't want them, but we have to bring them back. The law says otherwise.
Yeah, and the government just hope it all goes away. That's extraordinary. Caroline, James, thank you very much for helping us out. I'll catch up with you shortly.